Jack Thunder Morrison had lost everything. His wife took half of what remained after legal fees. His Harley sat repossessed across town. At 58, the former Hells Angels enforcer stared at keys to a beat-up garage bought with his last $1,000, wondering if this was rock bottom. The rusted sign read Murphy's Motors. The place hadn't seen business in years. Perfect for a man who wanted to disappear. But when he pushed open that creaking door, he discovered he wasn't alone. In the corner sat a half-built 1969 Triumph Bonneville, tools scattered around it like someone had just stepped away for lunch. The morning sun filtered through grimy windows as Jack nursed his third cup of gas station coffee. 6 months ago, he'd been somebody, not somebody good, but somebody who commanded respect. Now he was just another broken man in a broken garage. The Hells Angels patch lay crumpled on the workbench, torn down the middle. Sarah had done that during their final fight, screaming about how the club had stolen her husband piece by piece. She wasn't wrong. For 30 years, Jack had worn that patch like armor. The divorce papers were still in his jacket pocket, folded until the creases wore through. 32 years, Jack, she'd said, steady as a judge. 32 years I've been waiting for you to choose me over them. I'm done waiting. The club had cut him loose 2 weeks later. When you're facing federal racketeering charges and prosecutors are offering deals, loyalty becomes a luxury most men can't afford. Jack kept his mouth shut, did his time, and came out to find his brotherhood had evaporated. Cedar Ridge hadn't been a choice, just the end of the road. Population 3,200. Word traveled fast, and mothers pulled their children closer when he passed Mrs. Henderson was the exception. She brought him a casserole his second night. I knew Murphy. Good man. Place has been empty since Tommy passed. The vintage motorcycle manual lay open, pages yellowed and stained. Someone had studied this machine with devotion, noting every specification in neat handwriting. Behind rusted oil drums, Jack found tools organized with military precision. Mrs. Henderson found him his third morning. Tommy Murphy, my grandson. Lost his parents at 12. That boy could fix anything with an engine. Saved every penny for 3 years to buy that Triumph. What happened to him? Afghanistan. Second tour. He'd been working on that bike for months, planning to finish it when he got back. Said he was going to ride it to California. She gestured toward a map on the wall, a red line traced from Cedar Ridge to San Francisco. He talked about you sometimes. Said he'd met a real Hells Angel at some rally in Springfield. You probably don't remember. The memory surfaced slowly, a lanky teenager asking endless questions about bikes and brotherhood while Jack tried to enjoy his beer. The kid had been persistent. I remember, Jack said quietly. He used to say you were the real deal. Said you had the look of a man who'd earned his patch the hard way. The Polaroid photograph fell from a parts catalog. Jack, 20 years younger, standing beside his Harley with his arm around a grinning teenager. Tommy Murphy. The realization hit him like a physical blow. This was the boy who'd followed him for 3 days, asking about freedom and brotherhood. You're going to be somebody, Tommy had said. Maybe someday I'll ride with you. Jack had laughed it off. The Angels didn't recruit from small-town garages. He'd forgotten about Tommy within a week, but Tommy hadn't forgotten. While Jack destroyed everything good in his life, Tommy had built something better. He'd served with honor, earned his community's respect, and planned that cross-country adventure. Now he was dead, killed by a roadside bomb. Jack slumped onto a crate, photograph trembling in his hands. 30 years wearing a patch that was supposed to mean something. What did he have to show? A criminal record, failed marriage, empty bank account. Meanwhile, Tommy Murphy died a genuine hero. Jack's hands shook as he picked up the first wrench. The Triumph's engine case lay before him like a patient on an operating table. Tommy had been methodical, each component cleaned and catalogued with precision. Hidden within the frame's hollow tubes were Tommy's letters home. Jack discovered them, checking for rust damage. The first was dated 3 months into deployment. Dear Grandma, I've been thinking about that Triumph, about how good it'll feel to fire her up when I get home. Remember that Hell's Angel I told you about? I keep thinking about what he said about freedom, about how a motorcycle can take you anywhere if you're brave enough. Jack's throat tightened. He'd said those words casually, probably drunk. But Tommy had carried them to Afghanistan, found comfort in them during dangerous nights. The work went slowly. Jack's muscle memory was rusty. He dropped bolts, stripped threads, cursed creatively. But each time frustration overwhelmed him, he'd pick up another letter. Pete Hawkins arrived Thursday morning. Cedar Ridge's motorcycle expert had known Tommy since the boy could hold a wrench. "Boy did good work," Pete said after inspection. "And you're not screwing it up too badly. You need help, you know where to find me." The sheriff's warning arrived Friday, complaints about noise and suspicious activity. Sheriff Caldwell followed an hour later. "Getting complaints about you. Folks are nervous, considering your reputation. Haven't broken any laws. Just working on an old motorcycle. Tommy's bike. Good kid. Whole town loved him. Hate to see his memory disrespected. Kid deserves to have his bike finished," Jack said. "That's all I'm trying to do." The confrontation at Mel's diner came 2 days later. Conversation died when Jack entered. 15 faces turned with expressions ranging from curiosity to hostility. He took a seat at the counter. Behind him, worried whispers. "Dangerous man like that. What if he brings his gang?" Then Mrs. Henderson walked in. Without hesitation, she took the stool beside him. "Morning, Jack. How's the work on Tommy's bike?" The question sucked all air from the room. "Good. Engine's almost done. Your grandson did most of the hard work." The simple act of an elderly woman defending a stranger shifted something fundamental. The high school yearbook fell open to a page covered in signatures. But it was Jack's own that made his hands shake. To Tommy. "Keep the shiny side up. Maybe someday you'll earn the right to ride with the real deal. Thunder Jack Morrison, Hell's Angels MC." Tommy had found him at the rally's final night, asking Jack to sign. The kid had been drunk on excitement, talking about joining the army, seeing the world. "I'm going to learn everything I can. When I get back, maybe I'll be tough enough to prospect for the Angels." Jack had signed with casual arrogance, never imagining Tommy would carry those words like a sacred promise. Pete Hawkins returned Tuesday with patient instruction. "You're forcing things instead of persuading them. Motorcycles are like women, you can't muscle them. You have to understand them, earn their cooperation." "Why are you helping me? Tommy used to talk about you. About meeting a real Hell's Angel who told him motorcycles were about freedom. Kid took that to heart. He had more natural talent than anyone I ever taught. Said he was going to earn his patch and ride with legends. I failed him," Jack said quietly. "Maybe. But you can still finish what he started." Spider Kowalski's Harley rumbled into the parking lot, Jack's old sponsor, still cutting an intimidating figure despite gray beard and expanding waistline. "Thunder Jack Morrison. Heard you were hiding in this whole town. We got a situation with the Diablos in Springfield. Need every experienced hand. Time to come home, brother. I'm out. Been out for months. Nobody's ever out, Thunder. Blood in, blood out. My blood's already been spilled. I did my time, kept my mouth shut, walked away clean. You made me into a criminal," Jack continued. "Took a kid who wanted to belong and turned him into muscle for drug dealers. That's not brotherhood, Spider. That's organized sociopathy with matching patches." Spider's expression darkened. "You're making a mistake. When things go bad, you'll remember where you really belong." Jack watched him ride away, feeling something shift inside. For the first time in decades, he'd chosen his own path. The legal documents were taped under the workbench. Jack's hands trembled as he read. "To Jackson Morrison, known to me as Thunder Jack. I leave my garage, tools, and the 1969 Triumph Bonneville project with the hope that he will complete what I started and find in the work the peace that has always eluded him." He hadn't bought this garage. Tommy Murphy had left it to him. The $1,000 covered administrative fees. Tommy had orchestrated everything. The second document was Tommy's letter. Dear Thunderjack, if you're reading this, my plan worked. I know you probably don't remember me well, just some kid at that rally in Springfield. But that weekend changed my life. You told me motorcycles were about freedom, about courage to ride into the unknown. Those words stayed with me through basic training, through Afghanistan, through every night when fear tried to take hold. I know things probably didn't work out the way you planned. I heard about your troubles. I figured you could use a fresh start. Cedar Ridge is good that way. People judge you by what you do, not what you've done. I never got the chance to ride with you like I dreamed. But maybe we can ride together in spirit. Finish the triumph, Jack. Take her on that cross-country trip I planned. Show her the America I died protecting and find the peace we both deserve. Mrs. Henderson was waiting on her porch, knowing smile confirming she'd been part of Tommy's plan from the beginning. He was always smart, that boy. He knew you need a purpose more than sympathy. Why didn't you tell me? Because you had to choose it for yourself. Tommy understood that. The only way to save a man like you was to let him save himself. The custom chrome exhaust pipes arrived Tuesday, sitting in a Kansas City warehouse for over 2 years. Tommy's final gift, ensuring when the Triumph roared to life, it would sound exactly as he'd imagined. Word spread through Cedar Ridge. What started as suspicious whispers transformed into interest. Pete Hawkins became a regular fixture. The hardware store owner offered advice. The waitress stopped flinching. Young Mike Patterson, 17 and mechanically gifted, started hanging around after school. Something about his enthusiasm reminded Jack of Tommy. Why do you gap the plugs that way? Because Tommy researched it. He wasn't just following instructions, he was thinking about how to make it better. Memorial Day approached. Mrs. Henderson mentioned Tommy's name was engraved on the memorial stone. The bike was nearly finished. Only final adjustments remained. The Purple Heart arrived at the VA office Thursday. Specialist Murphy earned this at Ethelby Chapman. Saved 3 men when his convoy hit an IED. Stayed conscious long enough to apply tourniquets and call for medevac, even with shrapnel in his chest and leg. Hell of a soldier. The Triumph was finally complete, every component restored to perfection. Chrome exhaust pipes gleamed like mirrors. The fuel tank bore classic Triumph script in gold leaf Jack had applied with trembling hands. Sarah's arrival Saturday caught him off guard. She looked older, silver threading her brown hair, but her eyes held that same mixture of love and exasperation. Mrs. Henderson called me. Told me what you've been doing. I had to see for myself. It's beautiful. The boy who built this must have been very talented. He was. More than I realized. He was going to take this bike cross-country. Now I guess I'll have to do it for him. Sarah studied his face, seeing something new. Mrs. Henderson says you've changed. Still working on accepting myself. That's more than you were doing when I left. I'm not asking you to forgive me. Just wanted you to know Tommy Murphy saved my life, and I'm trying to be worthy of that gift. The American flag draped across the Triumph was the same one that had covered Tommy's coffin. Mrs. Henderson brought it early Memorial Day morning. He would have wanted it this way. Tommy always said a motorcycle should be honored like the freedom machine it is. Cedar Ridge's Memorial Day ceremony drew the entire town. The memorial stone bore 43 names. Thomas Michael Murphy's was carved near the bottom, letters still sharp. Jack wheeled the Triumph beside the memorial. Conversations quieted as people took in the completed restoration. Mayor Williams introduced him. We have with us today a man who has honored our fallen hero by completing the work Tommy started. Jack approached the microphone on unsteady legs. I met Tommy Murphy at a motorcycle rally 12 years ago. He was just a kid, maybe 18, with grease under his fingernails and stars in his eyes. He followed me for 3 days, asking about motorcycles and brotherhood and what it meant to be free. I was wearing a Hells Angels patch. Tommy thought that made me somebody special. Truth is, I was already becoming everything wrong with the outlaw life. But Tommy didn't see that. He saw something in me I'd forgotten existed. Tommy went to war carrying words I'd spoken about freedom and courage. He died protecting his fellow soldiers, earning the Purple Heart his grandmother will receive today. Jack knelt beside Mrs. Henderson and placed the Purple Heart in her palms. Tommy saved more than those soldiers in Afghanistan. He saved a broken-down ex-con who'd forgotten what it meant to build something instead of tearing it down. He taught me real brotherhood isn't about matching patches or shared violence. It's about lifting each other up. The triumph is finished, restored to exactly the condition Tommy envisioned. In 2 weeks, I'm starting that journey, carrying Tommy's memory to every destination he marked on his map. Jack pulled away the flag. The crowd gasped as sunlight struck chrome and paint, transforming the machine into something almost ethereal. The cross-country journey took 3 weeks, covering nearly 5,000 miles. Jack photographed the triumph at every stop Tommy had marked. At a Kansas cafe, when he explained his mission, the waitress refused payment. "My nephew came home from Iraq in a box. What you doing matters." Similar encounters marked every day. Each conversation reinforced that honoring the dead was a responsibility shared by all Americans. In Nevada, Jack encountered Hell's Angels at a truck stop. They approached with swagger, but something in Jack's demeanor gave them pause. "Nice ride. Belonged to a soldier. I'm finishing a trip he planned but never got to take." They stepped aside without comment. Jack felt profound liberation riding away, finally free from his former life's gravitational pull. The Pacific coast appeared like a promise fulfilled. Jack parked on a bluff overlooking the ocean, feeling Tommy's presence as if the young soldier stood beside him. Cedar Ridge welcomed him home like a conquering hero. The restored sign read, "Murphy and Morrison Motors." The ampersand painted in Tommy's favorite shade of red. Pete Hawkins became a partner. Together they transformed the garage into a proper restoration shop. Young Mike Patterson arrived daily after school, eager to learn. "Why do we gap the plugs that way?" "Because precision matters. Because taking shortcuts means disappointing people who trust us. And because Tommy Murphy taught me the difference between good enough and perfect is often the difference between making it home and breaking down." Mrs. Henderson became the shop's unofficial grandmother, bringing coffee and stories. The Hell's Angels patch Jack once wore now rested in a frame on his apartment wall, not displayed with pride, but preserved as reminder of the man he'd chosen not to be. "I wore that patch for 30 years. He'd tell wide-eyed teenagers. Thought it made me somebody special. Truth is, it just made me somebody dangerous. There's a difference. Real brotherhood isn't about matching colors or shared violence. It's about building something together." The garage became more than a business, a gathering place for Cedar Ridge's motorcycle enthusiasts, a symbol of the town's capacity for redemption. Veterans stopped by to share stories. Young people came to learn about mechanics and life lessons. Sarah's second visit came without warning, Sunday afternoon when Jack worked alone. "The place looks different. More like a real business." "It's both. Tommy's memory is part of everything we do, but it's not the only thing. We're building something that can outlast all of us." They sat on Mrs. Henderson's porch sharing coffee. "I'm not asking you to come back," Jack said. "Too much water under that bridge. But I wanted you to see that the man you once loved isn't completely gone. He was just buried under 30 years of bad choices." Sarah smiled with bittersweet understanding. "I'm glad you found your way back to him. Tommy would be proud." The annual Veterans Day ceremony drew the largest crowd in Cedar Ridge's history. Jack had been asked to speak again about honoring fallen heroes through action rather than mere words. "A year ago, I thought I knew what honor meant. I thought it was about loyalty to your club, about never backing down, about earning respect through fear. Tommy Murphy taught me I was wrong about everything. Real honor isn't about what you're willing to destroy. It's about what you're willing to build." The words carried across the square with the authority of hard-won wisdom, reaching ears that had been skeptical months earlier, but now listened with genuine respect.